Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network. I am here today with the fabulous Haley Shane, and we are going to be talking about the buyer journey. So, first, Haley, define that.
Yeah, so I read at one time, and I don't know how true this still is, but at one time there was a statistic that said that somebody has to have 11 different touch points with your brand before they will purchase.
That was probably 2 decades ago now. I'm
Yeah, it's
sure that it is more.
it's probably like 30 now.
Mhm.
But the reason that we do like a user flow or a user journey is to kind of get into their heads about where they're at, how they see the problem that they're having, the one that your business actually solves, and the entire journey that they're going through to get from aware of the problem but don't know how to fix it all the way to they are loyal to your brand and they're never going anywhere.
Okay. And how is mapping this about your brand?
So, if you figure out where they're starting and then where they're ending is, like I said, they're loyal to your brand is where you hope that they, where they end. But initially, if you can figure out like what it was that, how they figured out that they have a problem to begin with, you can use that in your marketing and in your advertising and stuff like that, and as part of your brand to attract those people naturally, instead of having to like force feed ads and ads and ads and ads and ads. Like, okay, well, hopefully if they see an ad 11 times they'll buy it. Like, yeah, you could wish that, but at the same time, why not just try to naturally attract some of these people and have the brand do the work for you? And if you know where they're at every single step of that journey, that's what's going to happen. You can let the brand do a lot of the heavy lifting instead of just cramming marketing down their throat.
Right, because we have we've differentiated ourselves.
Hmm.
We've figured out what makes us unique in the marketplace. We're doing that work in that way. I want you to know that this is very much right where I'm at. And
Hmm.
so next, the brand gives us the visual imagery that creates touch points in the customer journey that are more than copy.
Yes. So these are all can be visual. These can all come through with your messaging as well. This can come through there's different touch points for each of these, and I'll go through each one and give you guys kind of like the framework to use to figure this out for your brand, because it's different depending on who your target audience is and what you actually do and everything, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that this can come up. There's a lot of different ways that you can apply these.
Okay, so let's start at the top.
Yes.
People who know nothing about me.
Yeah. So this is, like you said, they have no idea that you exist, right? So the first stage is compelling events. This is what happened in their life to make them realize that there is a problem and they need to start looking for a solution. To use the most overused example ever, the fitness coach, like what happened in their life for them to realize that they have got to get their health under control and start, hit the gym and eating better and all that. Okay. So this is something that happened and they are seeking out what your brand does. Not necessarily your brand, but what it is that you provide that can fix this problem.
Okay, so that's like what? 3 to 5 touches
Mhm.
easily because I still don't like, I've seen you, that's it. So, that is primarily visual, yes?
Normally, yeah. So, okay, going back to, like, the fitness coach thing, maybe they're super high performing entrepreneurs and their health has gotten so out of control that they cannot perform at a high level anymore and their business is starting to suffer for it. That's the problem that they have where they go, "Okay, I need to, like, hire a fitness coach."
Okay. Apparently, I need to hire a fitness coach. Okay. So, next, we're in, like, the f
Problem aware
problem
stage.
aware phase, right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so they're problem aware. They know that there's an issue and they are looking for a solution. So next is awareness, which is how they find out about you in particular. This is one of the more obvious ones. This is word of mouth, referrals, social media, ads, in-person events, stuff like that. It's usually falls into this category. This is brand awareness. So they know there's a problem. They're looking for solutions. Boom, here you are.
Okay. And then we have solution aware.
Hmm.
What do we do there?
So next, in the way that I do it, is actually obstacles and objections.
Say more?
Yeah, so this is why they would not buy. And again, going back to like the design for a purpose thing that I always talk about, okay, in awareness, they're aware there's a problem and they need to fix it. Design for just that. Design just to move them to the next stage, which is, you know, book a call or take this free quiz or whatever it is for you. Design just to move them a little bit further. Don't try to close them and make them brand loyal when they just found out who you were. Move them to the next stage. So the next stage that I do is obstacles and objections. This is why they would not buy. And it sounds silly to talk about that, but if you can bring that up, you can deal with it before you ever actually like get on a call with them or interact with these people. You can deal with it in your messaging and your design and stuff like that. So this is why they would not buy. Maybe they're skeptical. Maybe they've tried it before. Like it didn't work. Maybe they don't want to do any of these fad diets.
And I have a series coming June, July-ish about how brand visuals and copy work together. I'm very excited about that
Hmm.
because they are two pieces of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
So, in terms of visuals, how are we continuing to move them forward?
Yeah. So this can be, and again, there's different touch points where all of this will happen. Some of this may happen on your website. Some of this may happen on just on social media and content and stuff like that. And so
But you're saying it matters that it's all cohesive and looks the same and that,
it
there's
it does. Yeah, that is important because you want people to associate with the brand. You want people to remember like the brand has the exact solution that I'm looking for. Um, as you kind of work your way down through this user flow, though, you can introduce more of the brand, right?
okay. So finally, after solution aware, we have become what?
Yeah. So next for me is expectations and desires. This is why
Okay.
they would buy.
Okay.
What do they expect to get out of this if they buy it? Yeah, they lose all that weight. They, they didn't have to cut out carbs. They didn't have to do any fad diet. It worked. They got the results that they want. They put on a bunch of muscle, whatever it is.
And then they buy.
and then they've bought, and you have fulfilled your end of the deal, which was to get them results, to get them you've met their expectations. Now it's engage and delight. This is how do you go above and beyond and surprise them a little bit. This is also known as like a post transaction experience. So you've got your pre-sale, during the sale, and then post sale. And post sale is the one that is often neglected. So this is think of this as like, what do? You've already got their money.
Mm-hmm.
You've got their money. They got results. Everybody's happy. What can you do to give them a little bit of a surprise after?
And how does branding matter here?
Mm. This is this post transaction area is the most profitable part of the transactional sales model.
Say more.
It is often the most neglected. I think by the last statistic that I read was like 86% of people do not have a post transaction anything. This helps you reinforce your brand. This helps it become memorable. This helps you stand out because if 86% of people aren't doing this, and just if you do it, even if it sucks, if you just do it, it stands out. If you do it and it's great, you're in like 1% of brands immediately. Like, why wouldn't you do
So,
it?
what makes it great?
Yeah. So, this is one of those things that completely depends on your target audience, but what would genuinely really make them happy after you've already sold them? And we look at this a lot as business owners as client gifts, you know. That's something that falls into this category. So, what is it that's really going to stand out in their mind and is really going to help them? If I was a using the fitness coach example, so they've bought, we got them the results, they lost all that weight, whatever. Maybe that they prefer like a certain brand of like leggings or gym shorts or whatever, pre-workout, whey protein, something like that. Fucking make a little care package of like some protein bars that they like, and some pre-workout and a pair of leggings and like some wrist straps or like whatever, package that all up and send it to them.
Does it need to be branded?
Doesn't have to be. It would help
Okay. But just
as long as they know who it's from.
right. But
Yeah.
just doing the bare minimum of gifting afterwards makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it lets them know, okay, if you knew, like my fitness coach probably knows enough about me that he could do this for me. If he sent me a box right now that was the gold standard whey protein, because that's the whey protein that I've used forever, like a couple of cans of Red Bull, because I don't do pre-workout anymore, some wrist straps, and like a pair of like boxing hand wraps, I would be over the fucking moon.
Yeah. So all of the extra confetti and glitter works.
It does. Also, a really, 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 really inexpensive way to do this, if you're doing physical packages like this, get really good at gift wrapping. It's a whole fucking
Mm.
art, by the way. If you've never seen somebody that can really gift wrap, it's a skill. It really is. Get decent at it,
Or pay a service.
or pay somebody to do it. Yeah, because I can't gift wrap worth a
No,
shit.
no. In fact, I make my husband do almost all of the gift wrapping for holidays for
Yeah.
the children because he's so much better at it. And enjoys it. Whereas I'm like, how can I just throw some tape on there and make it
Yeah.
all stick? Which is very
See, I
much what I
just
do with the brand, if we're being honest.
if
So,
you get something from me, it's in a bag. Like, yeah,
right, with
it's in a
some
bag. Tissue
tissue
paper.
paper, right.
Yeah. Now
It looks good. I can
I
make
can
that
get
look good.
fancy with some tissue paper now,
Right.
but no, I can't get gift wrap worth shit. So yeah, that's engage and delight.
Okay.
Going above and beyond. The last one, share and return. This is why they would come back and continuously buy from your brand, and why they would tell their friends.
Right. And I've talked about this before elsewhere, but potentially 80% of your business comes from returning
Mhm.
clients. And it's much easier to sell people who have already purchased from you once.
Absolutely.
And if you have a process around this, you also get referrals.
Mhm.
You also get people who will talk about you to everyone they know. You just have to have a process around
Yeah.
this.
This is where they become brand advocates. They will do their like your marketing for you.
Hmm.
The more of this, like the brand evangelists that you have, the less money you will have to spend on damn near everything.
And brand evangelists, so like I have a lot of these people. I'll be
Mhm.
honest about this. These are relationships that I cultivate, people who like me, what I'm doing, and shout about me on the from the rooftops. And I do that by being like actually aware of who they are as people and
Mhm.
maintaining relationships. But there are
Fucking what a mind-blowing concept. You
r-
mean you treat people like they're humans?
right, amazing.
That's fucking ridiculous.
But that doesn't mean that I can't have very specific ways in which I engage with people.
Mhm.
So, for example, there's a Substack thing where they do shout outs. And next month, I'm going to find people that I know who are already on Substack. Haley, I'm looking at you, and say, here, go and tag me in this shout out post so I can get Substack's attention. That
Yeah.
would be delightful. It takes
Yeah.
very little effort. But in this part of the journey, you actually have to be so specific about your asks.
Mhm. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Especially if they're big asks. So I've been doing these redesigns that I've been doing
Hmm. They're
really
so good.
without me asking. People are tagging these like major corporations and bullying the shit out of them. They're like, "Hey, your stuff sucks. You should hire Haley. This is really good. Watch this video." And it's hilarious. But it took me years to
To
be able
cultivate that network, right?
grow that. Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear when, because it's not an if, it's a when and with whom that's going to be successful.
Yeah, it's gonna work on somebody. I've got
Somebody.
one that
Hmm.
I'm gonna post tomorrow, and then I've got one today. I'm not kidding you. I had to storyboard it because I want like I want to like tell a story with this dumb fucking video. So I had to use Canva of all things. I used Canva because they have a storyboard
That's
maker.
amazing.
I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I'll just use that. I don't want to like go into Photoshop and do this. So yeah, I had to actually like storyboard this shit out. So
But this is what it looks like to visually represent a cohesive brand. And truly, most companies aren't doing it.
no,
Okay. So now that we know the journey, how does brand awareness play into this?
explain. I don't know that I.
How are we in addition to visual touch points, what are we doing to get people to come along with us?
Oh, right. Yeah. So, how do we make them brand advocates along the way?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, it starts really in that awareness phase, like going back to the again the fitness thing. Just I'm using this because it's an easy one and like pretty much everybody understands this, so you can apply it to your business pretty easily if you know like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm out of shape, I don't want to be out of shape. Like pretty much everybody's dealt with that. So um yeah, it starts with that awareness phase. Like if you see as a like a service provider, like what kind of content do they put out, what kind of stuff do they talk about, do they call out people in the industry that you also don't like, do they make this stuff a little easier to understand? Is it something that's usually looked at, like dieting is normally looked at as this like super complicated thing, and I for a long time thought it was incredibly complicated, and then when I found the coach that I did, I was like, oh, this shit's easy. And I'm definitely like brand evangelist for my coach.
Hmm.
So it starts in the awareness phase. They need to be aware you exist, yes, but they also need to be aware this is where you can start, your values, beliefs, stuff like that. This is where that can kind of start to come out because you want to weed people out quick.
Right. The more you repel non-ideal people,
Hmm.
the better you're going to attract the people who will evangelize for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want somebody to get all the way through this. We'll call it a funnel, just to make this simple. You don't want somebody to get all the way through this funnel and then they're almost at that evangelist point and you say something that they completely don't agree with and they had no idea because you never really talked about it before and now they've like dissented against you. Now they're dissenters. So,
So, how is how is creating a brand helpful if you do different things? So, you have a suite of offers. What does creating a brand help you do?
yeah, it I think it puts all of that under one personality, right? So, I do a couple of different things. They're all within that creative realm, you know. But I offer multiple things. I offer strategy, which is this like super tactical and analytical kind of thing. I do design, which is very, artistic and visual and stuff like that. I do digital like illustration, which is completely art. I do product photography. It's all within the same realm, but being able to like put that under one thing just helps me kind of keep it all cohesive and under like, hey, I'm this person and I do all of these things because this is a part of who I am. And this it's very personal brand, but
But that's I, we're mostly all neurodivergent over here, and
mhm.
that's sometimes required because we have many special interests.
Oh yeah.
So, how are we building that brand cohesion?
So I used this used to trip me up so bad because I am interested in a lot of different things. And not only interested in a lot of different things, good at a lot of different things. And so I was like, how do I really find the balance between all of these things? And stumbled upon the realization one day that balance does not mean 50-50. So I do not have to be a brand strategist half the time and digital artist the other half of the time. Maybe 80% of what I do is strategy and design, and that's how I make a living and that's where 80% of the money that I make comes from. But the other 20% of the time, yeah, maybe I'm painting D&D minis that I 3D printed. Maybe I talk about that, maybe I don't. Like it doesn't matter.
because you have created a brand that allows you to do all of those things.
Mhm.
And how does that relate to knowing your customer's journey?
Yeah, so you can look at this as they go through this funnel, you're getting a little bit more personal with them, right? You think of it like if you and I had just met, we're probably not going to like spill our life story to each other, right? But you and I have been internet friends for a long time.
Mhm.
And despite us not actually like knowing each other,
Mhm.
we could probably both divulge a little bit more detailed things about ourselves to each other, because we've formed that relationship.
Right.
So the farther down this funnel that you go, the more personal it can get. And this goes back to the purpose design thing too, is like when they're getting ready to be like brand evangelists for you, you can tell really personal stories and you can use them to tell really personal stories, weight loss transformation stories to use that example again, you know.
Mhm. Just yesterday, I recorded a podcast where we talked about infant loss, and it takes a special kind of friend for me to bring out the dead babies.
Yeah.
And but that's a relationship that has built through my funnel over time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you have to, you start off, I'm not saying tame it down. I'm not saying act like you're something else, but give them hey, here's how you figure out your macros. I don't like this guy in the industry. He's on a bunch of steroids and I think he's stupid. And then
I
as you move down, you can get more personal. You can be like, hey, I was a fat kid growing up and I got bullied all the fucking time and I hated myself. And, you know,
so when you're telling the fat kid story,
hmm
is that for social media? Is that for email? Like, how do we determine the medium for communication? And what does that have to do with like being aware of where people are in our funnel?
yeah. So I am going to walk you through this exercise called a day in the life exercise. I thought that everybody knew what this was and that everybody was aware of it and that it was just like this really basic marketing branding thing that people use. Turns out apparently it's not. And every single time that I walk a client through this, they're like, this is fucking awesome. So imagine with me, you have a piece of paper and you have three columns. Okay. In the first one, you're going to name that task. This is what your ideal client or customer does in their life from the time they wake up till the time that they go to bed. And then the second one that we're going to have is going to be the gap or the challenge. This is the challenge that they're dealing with in their life. The last column is going to be opportunity. So this is the opportunity that your brand has to inject itself into their life just a little bit. Okay, so I'll give you an example.
Fabulous.
I was working with a coach, like a life coach. A lot of what she teaches is like meditation and mindfulness and being present and stuff like that, right? So her ideal client, they wake up in the morning, they're getting their kids ready for school, getting their husband out the door for work, they take their kids to school, they come back, and they feel like they don't have any time in the morning to themselves. Okay. So they wake up, take the kids to school, blah 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 blah, come back home. When they come back home, they're cleaning up the kitchen because they cook breakfast, or they're doing laundry, or they're starting dishes, or whatever, right? The challenge there is that they don't feel like they have time for themselves. Opportunity for the brand is to make these little quick 5 minute, sometimes even shorter than that, meditations that they can do in the morning after, no, when they've got the house to themselves. Like the dishes can wait, you know, laundry can wait, whatever. Do this little 5-minute thing. Next one. They finish all the like household chores. They sit down at their computer and like work on their blog. They check their email. Oh, look, it's an email from your brand at this exact time because that they're in, this part of the country mainly. You can schedule the emails to go out like, whenever it's their time. At 11:36 a.m. that they've finished all their laundry and they're sitting down at their laptop and they're like browsing Pinterest or whatever. Oh, look, an email from your brand talking about whatever. See? So you go through their day, every task that they have, everything that they do. You try to figure out what it is about that that's frustrating them, that's, making them upset, whatever the feeling is. And then you figure out where you can interject your brand into that. That can be social media, that can be an email, that can be a product, it can be whatever. And if you are like me and you have like squirrel brain and you constantly think of new offers, but you can't make them all, this is a really, really, really good way to figure out which ones you should make.
Say more.
I just said so much. I just talked forever, bro.
I know it's terrible, Haley.
Hmm.
So I've mapped out what they're doing and I've figured out where the opportunities are.
Mm-hmm.
And I am taking those opportunities and converting them into products or services.
Mm-hmm.
I then test
Or
that
just content. Doesn't
or
have to be paid.
right, it doesn't it can be a minimum
Mm-hmm.
viable offer here.
Yep.
So how do I test that then?
Yeah. So you have to know a lot about your target audience. So if you don't have this information, you're just gonna have to kind of go with your gut and trust that you know enough about these people that you could make some very educated guesses. And then you just test it. You put it out there. You say, okay, I want to try to do an email campaign or an email um early afternoon after their kids are at school, husband's at work, and they've got the house to themselves. And I want to see how this works. And I want to test this type of email. I want to test this subject line. This is where you get into like nitty gritty stuff like copywriters or A B testing or like
Mhm.
marketers are testing these different funnels or stuff like that. This is where you're almost starting to move out of branding, but you need that foundation. You need the brand foundation to actually like figure out how to do all of this because if I go to a copywriter that does email and I'm like, hey, can you write me a bunch of emails? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they write me a bunch of emails and that's it. It's not really going to do any good. But if I say, hey, I've got this particular client, she wants to accomplish this. This is what she does in the day. And I want to send an email at this exact time. This is what's going on in her life. Can you write me an email campaign for that for 7 days? You bet your ass the results are going to be better, even if the copywriter isn't that good. Like, even if it's a like a mid-tier copywriter, you'll still get better results.
Because we've identified the ideal
Mhm.
circumstances. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, this is at the end of the day, the person that you're emailing or that's you're sending content to or that's watching your videos or whatever is a fucking person. They have shit going on in their life. Like, I have somebody renovating the condo next door to me right now, and that's what's been going on for the last like 15 minutes. Is I've heard somebody with a hammer. If I get an email right now that was like for a hitman service, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, at 12:38 p.m. Good timing. No. But it's realizing that the person on the other side of the screen is a person.
And it's about trying to predict. No. Or is it about trying to understand?
You want to understand as much as possible. Sometimes you do have to guess and predict. And then there's that, the old saying like, if you can predict what they want before they know that they want it, the whole like had Henry Ford asked what people wanted, they would have said faster horses or whatever,
Right.
that whole thing. So that's more innovation, than just predicting. But yeah, sometimes you have to make educated guesses. It's just how it is. Sometimes that information is just not available, you know. Um, but yeah, you get your little empathy hat on, and
And how do we come by this information?
yeah. So let us say that target your target client has children and they all play after school sports. Okay. Would it not benefit you to go find those people, perhaps at a sports game, and talk to them, observe?
Haley, these are radical,
I know.
radical suggestions.
I know. If you're targeting Uber drivers, maybe you should go order a fucking Uber and like talk to the dude. Spend the just $20 or whatever.
And it's not just about having the conversation.
Hmm.
It's about them telling you what you don't already know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to. I had a post about this the other day. The quality of answers that you get are directly related to the quality of the question that you asked. And you can apply this. This is not just about market research, this is about life. Like, apply this to anything. If you ask stupid, shitty questions, you're going to get dumb, useless answers. So, you best come correct and ask some really good questions so you can get some really good answers. And it would do you some good to actually sit down and figure out what those questions are before you do this.
Right. I speak with some authority when I say that asking good questions is a bit of an art form
Hmm.
and you really have to practice a
Yeah, it
lot.
is.
So, what we're looking to do are experiment with what's going to get us the information we didn't know we needed. And how do we structure those questions?
Yeah. So you can reverse engineer it. Like do this like Jeopardy, right? You answer the answer or you question the answer or however it
Hmm.
works. I could not fucking go on Jeopardy. So like but you see what I'm saying, right? So you've got, this ideal client and you're trying to figure out like this day in the life stuff. And maybe you get through like morning and lunchtime just fine, and then after their kids get home from school, you're like, well, fuck, I don't know, I'm lost. I don't know what they do. That's a really good, starting question. What do they do at dinner time? And then you're like, okay, like you can narrow it down. Fuck it, use Chat GPT. Like
Right.
this is one of the things you could use it for. Like ask it questions until you get better at it and it gives you better answers. And then you'll know, oh, okay, I can ask better questions. So
Right,
it's a
because
starting point.
you have to train ChatGPT. If you want it to work well with any degree of efficiency, you
Hmm.
have to teach it what you need it to do first.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're asking these questions to get a day in the life of our ideal client.
Hmm.
And we're creating opportunities that we can potentially make an offer into.
Hmm.
How do we decide, Haley? That's really the hard part, I think, for so many of us, right?
Mhm.
It's that I have 85 million things I could be doing.
Yep.
I see what all of these opportunities are. How does knowing the journey and knowing the ideal day help me pinpoint on what's going to work?
Yeah. So the easiest way to start is look at what do you need? Do you need a new offer? Do you need a new email marketing campaign? Do you need a new funnel? Like figure out what's really going to move the needle. If your offer sucks and the way that it's positioned is bad, like start there. Fuck the funnel and making endless content and I've got to do 3 TikToks a day and I've got to dance and point and No, fix the offer first. If that's what needs to be fixed, like fix that first. And then once you fix that, then you can come back to like the day in the life thing and be like, oh, okay, well, I could interject my offer here and here. These are two really big pain points. This thing after breakfast and this thing like after lunch are not that big of a deal. But this shit right here at dinner, they're really sick of that. I could just put the offer in right there. Yeah. You don't have to hit every single touch point every single day with every single thing that you do. It's to pick where you can interject your brain. If you can hit all of them, fuck yeah, do it. But that's going to be really hard if you're a solopreneur,
Hmm.
unless you've got just a ridiculous budget to outsource, which I doubt that. So you pick the most important.
We pick the one that we feel is most likely to succeed,
Hmm.
and we experiment around what potentially is going to work for us.
Hmm.
And then how do we tie our brand into this into meaningful ways?
Yeah. So again, it goes back to injecting your personality into all of that stuff too. Maybe in the case of the mindfulness coach, a lot of people are like, no, you need to meditate for hours on end. And if you don't do that, you're not doing it right. Maybe part of your personality is they get an email that's like, you can do this shit in 5 minutes. You don't have to be some yogi sitting on a mountain, like not talking and fasting for 6 hours. Like that's stupid. Yeah, we don't have to do it like that. you know you can use that. You can start calling people out any way that you can inject your personality into it a little bit. The way that you speak, the way that you look, the way, the certain type of language that you use, the lexicon that you use. Maybe you've got a certain little ritual around your brand that you can get people, which is that's a whole, we could do probably an entire episode on that. But anything like that where you can inject and get them familiar with who that brand is. If it were a person, you know it's like meeting a person over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually you get to know them really well, right?
Right, because the brands I have the most affinity for, I feel like I have a relationship
Hmm.
with.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels very person to person instead of corporation to person.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how do we make that easier when there's only one of us?
Yeah. So again, it goes back to prioritization, right? What's most likely to succeed, what's going to move the needle. And really at the end of the day, you're the only one that can figure that out. So you just need to sit down and figure out, okay, these are all of the things I could do. What do I think's worth doing right now? What do I think is worth doing, but maybe outsourcing, and what can wait? There's a little grid thing that you do. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like this is
The
urgent.
Eisenhower
Yeah.
matrix.
Yeah,
Yes.
that. Like this is urgent, it needs to get done now and it
Hmm.
moves the needle, so you do it right now. Or like this isn't important, or whatever. So you can do something like that if that works.
I think that this is the place where we stop trying to personalize ourselves and start trying to automate.
Mhm.
And that's probably the wrong answer, right?
Not always.
Okay. So, are there tools that make branding easier in this way?
Not that I fucking know of.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right? When it comes to stuff like this and like the touch points and the content and stuff that you're putting out,
Hmm.
yes, you can automate your email. Yes, you can have somebody build you a funnel. You can automate, if you got an online community, you can have, auto moderation and stuff like that set up. There are tools for aspects of this, but for figuring out what your brand is, the personality that it has, there is no way to automate it. Like there just isn't. If there was, we would have found it by now because I promise you we are some of the laziest fucking people on the planet.
So, obviously, then the recommendation here is if this is hard, come see Haley.
Pretty much, yeah. And it is hard. I'll just tell you it is, and that's not me being like it's hard and you don't know how to do it, so you should just hire me. No, it's very difficult to figure this out for yourself. I couldn't figure it out for myself.
Aha. Say more.
Ah, yeah, yeah. I have worked with a brand strategist, guys.
See? Because we're
It's hard to
way
do this for
too
yourself.
close to our own work
It's
product.
it's the forest through the trees thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very hard to do that. I can do this shit for other people in my sleep. It's not for me. It's not very difficult. Doing it for myself, I was like, I'm gonna die. I cannot possibly figure this out. So,
Okay.
it does. It takes a 10,000 foot overview to like guide you out of that forest.
Which is what a brand voice identity guide will
Yeah, that's what a brand strategy does.
do for you. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, what's the next piece of this?
So we've covered differentiation.
Hmm.
Um, we've covered like how important it is to build your brand on like your actual values and your
Hmm.
beliefs and your mission and stuff like that, and not decide to have those later. We haven't really talked about the actual pieces of a brand personality, and I think
Okay.
eventually we're gonna have to get to that. Yeah.
Okay. The pieces of your brand personality. And
Hmm.
we'll just talk about it a little bit here and a lot
Yeah.
more next time. You have Legos for this.
Hmm.
Tell us what those are.
Yeah. So I do what's called a brand personality pyramid, and so at the bottom of that pyramid, it is traits that you can't really see, but that are definitely there. They're intangible. That's like your mission, your beliefs, the vision that you have, stuff like that. It's stuff that it is there. You can't see it though. And then you go all the way at the top of this pyramid is look and feel, which is incredibly tangible. You can look at it. That's how the brand looks and feels. And then in between all of that is other parts and pieces of a brand personality. So that was a lot of P's. But there's pieces within that. So, your tone of voice, look and feel, the lexicon that you use, how people describe your brand if it was a person. Yeah, there's there's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Okay. So we'll talk about all of the individual pieces next week, next time, two
Next,
weeks
next.
from now.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah. Whenever.
Yeah.
Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, y'all. If you are looking to build out your pieces or your overall brand strategy, go find Haley. That's HaleyShane.com.
Thank you again.
This has been an absolute delight. Y'all, we will see you again next time. We still have openings in late June now and July and on into the fall for people who are looking to build their own master classes. And if
Do it.
you have something to teach, we would love to see you over here because this is just the best time. I'm having the best time. All right. You can find out information about that, briarharvey.com/partners. And we will see you all again in 2 weeks. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day.